What's going on, guys? It seems like nearly every day another bit of news, another leak for one of these rolling smartphones hits the internet. We know that TCL, LG, Oppo, Samsung, everybody seems to be working on a concept design or a future phone even that is taking on this rolling style. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referring to this style design here where you have a normal phone, but then through either a motor, from what I can tell, I think they're all going to be motorized. Everybody's doing. Basically, this phone will expand, allowing that screen. The screen has rolled down into the body, and as it expands out, it rolls back up, revealing a larger screen. Now, to me, this sort of design has a big advantage over a folding OLED in that you don't have to deal with creases being created down the middle of the screen. That's always been one of my biggest problems with a folding OLED because, one, you've got the visible crease when the light hits just right, and then two, in some of the older, versions, you could actually kind of feel where that crease, where the hinge is. So when you're using something like this sort of design, you're not going to have that same problem because there's no hinge, there's no fold, so there's not anything like that going on. And honestly, look, if you want to see what this looks like happening in real time, it looks like nothing short of absolutely magical. This is one of these gifts that I just sit here and I just want to watch over and over. You can actually, I think you can kind of see the screen there rolling out. It looks incredible, and there's a lot of usefulness here. So what we've got today is what looks to be a spec sheet for what LG is doing with their version of a rolling screen. Now, this report is coming from MS Power User. It's coming from @CozyPlanes on Twitter. Somebody you should definitely look at following on Twitter if you enjoy a good leak. But MS Power User has done a good job of kind of aggregating things here. So what we know is LG is making a rolling phone. We've got here, this looks like basically part of their development software where they're showing the different sizes that this thing can be in. And we have a little bit more information on that as we scroll down, but obviously this is a rolling phone. In terms of specs, I don't know exactly how you're supposed to read that, but that's evidently what they're calling this sort of display. So it's a 7.4-inch rollable display. So in phone mode, you've got a 20:9 aspect ratio, which is not something I love. That's very tall. That's actually more than twice as tall as it is wide, so it's a very tall display. However, it doesn't just roll from phone mode to tablet mode. It actually has intermediary stages, which I actually really love. So there's actually then video mode, so it expands out to be 16:9, which is perfect for virtually all movies and video content. Most of that stuff is in 16:9. Then there's productivity mode, which expands it out further to be a 3:2 aspect ratio. Now, if you're a Surface Duo user, 3:2 aspect ratio may sound familiar to you because that is what each screen on the Surface Duo is. That is a 3:2 aspect ratio. So imagine something like that, but much larger, that could then squeeze down to a normal, 20:9 phone display. We've also got 16 gigs of RAM. So this thing is not going to be a budget style phone. The LG Wing was using a mid-range 7 series Snapdragon processor to keep that price down a little bit. Well, this is a 16 gigs of RAM and a Snapdragon 888. This is going to be bleeding edge, top tier flagship sort of thing, and then a 4200 milliamp hour battery. That puts it 300 milliamp hours smaller than the Z Fold, the Z Fold 2 had at 4500 milliamp hours, but 4200 could be sufficient, especially if you're spending a lot of your time in phone mode and expanding out of productivity mode when you need to get something done. Keep in mind when we're talking about these different dimensions, these different screen real estate sizes, you are dealing with a 7.4-inch screen, and they're quoting 7.4 while it's in phone mode. We also have some patents that we actually talked about in the past showing that this thing will actually, the way that they're accomplishing the different screen sizes is by the fact that it actually expands out of both sides instead of just out of one. So you can expand one side or both sides to get those two different sizes. And then Let's Go Digital has a really good set of renders based on what we can tell by the patents about what this thing will look like. Hopefully they're able to make it nice and comfortable in the hand, even with all these moving parts and so forth. I think that the idea of this thing costing between $1,400 and $2,000 is probably pretty realistic in terms of what's going into this thing, the spec sheet. I think for me, the thing that I always come back to is the productivity aspect. I still believe that two distinct screens is still a superior experience in terms of productivity versus one large screen. However, having the ability to expand this thing out, if the software is good enough, like what we're seeing in the Z Fold 2, split window and things like that, I really think that something like this could really be a productivity powerhouse as well, especially with that 3:2 aspect ratio, which is my preferred. It's that or 4:3. Either one. A 3:2 is really good though. It's something that I really enjoy in terms of getting things done, because you have just so much more screen real estate. There's so much more that can fit on the screen. I've talked about this at length when it comes to the Surface Duo, that when you're even just looking at something, like Twitter, the fact that you can get so much more text on the screen because the screen isn't having to wrap every couple of lines. It really makes a big difference in terms of just that screen real estate in general. So having a 3:2 aspect ratio that can shrink down into a normal phone size when you need that could be a pretty good compromise. Obviously, most apps are designed to use a normal screen, 20:9 or 2:1, something like that. So guys, what do you think of these rolling phone designs? Do you think with the right software they can be as powerful in terms of productivity as something like the Surface Duo? Are you keeping an eye on these things? I personally really can't wait to see these things in the wild and to see what they're really going to be capable of doing, what the vision is for them. To me, the idea of having a normal phone, a video consumption device, then a productivity device, all in one form factor is really alluring. LG makes really good hardware. I can't wait to see what this thing looks like. So guys, stay tuned for more coverage just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends. If you enjoy my content, please consider becoming a Scary If Literal member. You'll get access to a whole bunch of emoticons to use with live streams and a shout out on an upcoming video. Thanks as always for your continued support.